The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the guests appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of 8 News Now or Nexstar Media Group.
Well, the big moving trucks are going to be heading to D.C. One federal agency, the BLM, is moving. They're heading out west into Colorado. They'll have a satellite office in Elko as well. There are some critics about the move, but I know a lot we've heard here in Nevada about, hey, they should be moving out west. This is where all of the land they manage is. What do you think about the idea that they're shipping out of D.C.?
It's a terrible idea. They just hired an oil executive as their deputy director. This is a move that we have known about for some time now, and the whole premise behind this under the Trump administration is to decentralize the BLM, destabilize the BLM, move it out west so that they're spread apart, so that all of the different entities are spread apart, make it easier for oil and gas companies to be able to get leases on public lands, and this is a move to go through the whole sagebrush rebellion thing again, where Republicans want to sell off these lands, number one, but also give these lands back to the states. We've talked about this many times on this show. It is not feasible to give public lands back to the states. We became a state because we gave up our public lands. And when we gave up our public lands, that means we don't have to manage them. We don't have money to educate our children in this state, let alone manage our federal lands, which is 87% of our state. So at the end of the day, this is a move so that these BLM officials can get closer into the community with oil executives, with the people that big business, because we know that the Trump administration has wanted that to be one of their priorities, is to give oil and gas leases to big corporations and oil executives. And this is a move to do that. That's all this is. And it is a move to eventually get rid of the BLM, which is wrong. The BLM belongs in Washington, D.C., and then they can have field representatives around the different states. But all of these lands belong to everyone in the United States, not just the Westerners. And this needs to be where it belongs, which is in Washington, D.C.
What do you think of the move and what Annette has said? Do you think that that is the impetus behind it?
I'm not as cynical as you are about the whole thing. First of all, I do believe in selling off a lot of the land here back to the state and do it piecemeal, but I think we do deserve to get it back. It's been a long time, and it was a weird thing to become a state in order to give up most of the state, which didn't make any sense. So I am for, we've talked about this a lot before, and I am for oil drilling and anything we've got to do on any of the land at all. I have no issue with that. I mean, to me, the issue is a matter of they're trying to get this back to closer to the people in the western part of the country. I mean, there are pros and cons. I'm not necessarily for it. I'm not against it. I don't think there's a big issue either way. The upside part of it is that supposedly while the main headquarters will be in Colorado, there'll be a headquarters in Elko, and so it looks like we may wind up getting 200-300 or more jobs that'll be brought to the state of Nevada from the BLM, and that's a definite possibility. So for us in Nevada, that's positive. And again, for me, being positive to be able to get some of that land back from the Fed and even drill in the land is fine with me. I don't think it's the hottest issue out there, but you know, that's where I'm coming from.
So you don't buy the argument, Annette, that the department should be closer to the land that it manages. The vast majority of BLM land is
absolutely not. The writing's on the wall. I mean, this has been a trend we've seen with the Trump administration now for the years that they have been there. They want to get rid of public lands. That's the bottom line. And so ex-BLM officials have actually come out and said exactly what this is a step to do. It's a step to eventually get rid of the BLM altogether, which we are opposed to. There was a resolution that went through the Nevada legislature this past session that said we are opposed to getting rid of the BLM. That is a good step. You know, Nevadans rely on the BLM to manage our federal lands, and we need to do that. When we're looking at the jobs, it's actually about 27 jobs per state. It's not a lot of jobs. So this notion that somehow it's going to bring all these jobs and it's going to decentralize it and give these, you know, give opportunities to the West to, you know, have a stake in public lands, that couldn't be further from the truth. The writing is on the wall. What they're trying to do is get rid of the BLM, make it easier for oil and gas companies to get leases, and at the end of the day, get rid of, you know, our public lands, and we should be opposed to that.
I mean, don't misunderstand. I have issues about the BLM too. They acted like gangsters when they tried to round up those cows up north and everything. So I mean, I'm not a big fan of the BLM either. But if they're going to be coming out anywhere and they're going to be providing some jobs for Nevadans, to me that's a win for some part of Nevada.
Notwithstanding moving the headquarters, then, do you see a need for the BLM?
I think there is a need for BLM on a scaled-back basis, yeah.
Okay. This was an interesting one. So Macy's has come out apologizing for fat shaming. They had a series of plates, I think, that had different, it ends up looking like portion control size. If you want to fit into the skinny jeans, all your food's got to fit in this circle, whatever.
Yes.
The cancel culture that comes out of this, though, people, I guess, boycotting and trying to take matters in their own hands to try to push back at the retailers. We're starting to see this more and more these days, that this is the consumer now has a tool via online and other ways to start to push back when they see something that they don't like.
Yeah, absolutely. I see nothing wrong with consumers being able to push back on things that they see as problematic. I see this as problematic as somebody who grew up and had an eating disorder and has struggled with my weight my entire life, and often on this show in the comment section have people make comments about it, even though you both know I've been working on all of those things. It's unacceptable to have something like this in a store, and it's not funny at the end of the day. I can laugh about a lot of different things. Those plates are not funny. It's not a joke. And it's also not reasonable. A young person, or mainly a young woman, sees something like that in a store and then thinks that that's how they get skinny. It's the most ridiculous thing in the world. But at the end of the day, I'm glad that social media exists. You know, when a business makes me angry, I take to social media. I actually had a business make me so mad the other day, I went on social media and started calling them out. It's our ability to actually have a say in where we spend our money, how we spend our money, and then being able to hold a company accountable if they make a decision that is poor. And this is one of those times where they made a bad decision and they got called out for it, bottom line. And you can't say this is a right issue or a left issue, because both sides of the aisle do it all the time, and I can give you examples on both sides. So this is an example of consumers holding a business accountable for doing something that is in poor taste, and they got held accountable, and now they're pulling the plates. That's good.
What did you think, Alan, of how this had all played out and kind of the power of the people in this case?
Let me start from the back end, because first of all, you got to watch it start posting. I tell my daughters this too, because there are now companies who are suing people who give negative reviews and negative thoughts. I mean, that's
come at me. I don't care.
But okay, that's my daughter's attitude too. So I mean, but that does happen. I've seen these plates. I want to go get a set, because before they force them to be taken off the market, because they'll be worth money someday. It's a good investment. I think they're funny. I think they are funny. I don't think there's a problem with it. I know people call them misogynistic. They've used that word. I'm going, oh, you got to be kidding me. Racism's misogynistic, and they all these little cute little phrases they have. I see no problem with it at all. There are things as portion control. They have these for kids, by the way, in square plates, where, you know, if you're going to have so much vegetables and so much protein and everything else, and they try to guide you toward it. This thing was set up as probably a joke, and there are some people who took it very, very seriously. I don't agree with people, whatever they've said to you online and like that. That's wrong. I mean, and it's boorish. So I'm with you on that. But I don't think there's a problem with having these kinds of plates. And the people who get upset about it, you know, I mean, they've got issues going on, maybe with weight or something like that. Well, then don't use them, don't look at them, don't buy them, you know. But I did see people saying that we're going to force all 50 states to not carry them. Well, you know what? I mean, first of all, it's a private enterprise. Let them do what they want to do. If some people want to boycott it, that's fine. If other people want to buy it, that's fine. I think people, you know, we have too many snowflakes these days. People getting their knickers in a snit and getting really upset about things like that really have nothing to do with them at all. You don't like it, don't buy it. But don't tell somebody else they can't buy it.
So is there a sensitivity issue in this country?
Absolutely not. You know, the right loves to be sensitive about all kinds of crazy things. And when you see something like this, it's not as simple as portion control for kids. You know, there is portion control that is healthy and real, and you can do it all kinds of ways. This is not one of the ways. Saying skinny jeans, fat jeans, mom jeans, like that is not just a joke. That is unacceptable. And that's what these folks were calling out. It's unacceptable, Alan. You can laugh all day long, but it perpetuates this notion that women in particular have to look a certain way and have to dress a certain way to be able to be sexy or to be able to be accepted or to be able to fit a certain stereotype that society puts on us. And this is the kind of stuff that perpetuates that. And at the end of the day, you can laugh all day long, but you've never actually had an eating disorder where you're starving yourself because you don't think you fit those stereotypes. So I don't think it's wrong to call this out. I don't think it's a sensitivity issue. Yeah, actually, it pissed me off when I saw it because it's unacceptable. And like I said, you can laugh all day long, but you weren't the one who ended up in the hospital in high school because you were starving yourself.
But the truth is, you know what? I mean, listen, I've had weight issues all my life too. I'm not exactly, I'm overweight right now, okay? And I get it. And I need to lose weight. I'm saying this right now here. So when I've seen these plates, I don't feel like, oh my God, they're shaming me just because I know that.
But it's not about you. It's about other people who come behind you. It's about the kids who walk through that store and see that and think that's the acceptable way to eat. That's not the acceptable way to eat, especially for young people. They need to be able to see healthy body standards. Look, I don't disagree that the portion control plates and things like that, teaching kids how to eat is a good thing. But nowhere on there does it say this is how you fit in your skinny jeans. Like, that's not. There's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. This is the wrong way.
And to me, there is a humorous way to do it, and there are people who take offense to almost everything. I don't take offense to this. And again, I'm like you. I mean, I should be eating personally the smaller issue, and I know it. But again, it's a joke. It's more of a joke than anything. It was a humorous situation. I didn't take offense to it. And the people who said that we're going to get them banned in all 50 states, I thought you've got a private enterprise here.
Sure, but they're pulling them, aren't they?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And I know people, and that's because you got these snowflakes who don't mind bullying people. I get that.
So was it bullying people when the right went after Target for allowing transgender people to use the bathroom of their choice?
I think that is a completely different issue.
It's not.
No, you and I have a completely different attitude on that at all. Transgender people using the bathroom they want. When you have women in a bathroom and a guy walks in.
The right called Target out. Now, I agree with Target, and I believe that should be something that should happen. But at the end of the day, the right got all sensitive about it. You could call them snowflakes too for it.
Maybe I suppose they could be, but you know what? Target is a private business; they can do what they want. Macy's is a private business; they can do what they want.
And Macy's chose to pull them after criticism.
I have no issue again with them going ahead and having these plates. They should not pull them because of some people acting like a snowflake. And I don't know where you use the bathroom in Macy's either, by the way. So.
Let's talk about tax breaks. So GoEd has the tax structure went into play, I should say the regulatory structure, to give large businesses as incentives tax breaks and other incentives, to use the word twice, to bring them here to Nevada. So the RGJ went in talking about Tesla in particular, specifically. The numbers, at best, 80% of the jobs that were promised to get these tax breaks have been filled so far, and only about 30% of the capital investment that was supposed to be taken into place to qualify. So do we need to be more choosy about how we give out these tax breaks and to whom? Because we know Tesla is not the only example.
Yes, we do. And I've been very consistent on this issue. We should not be giving tax breaks to corporations to come here. Look, I know Nevada doesn't have a lot to offer because we don't fund things properly and various other reasons, so we have to give incentives for businesses to come here. But this is the wrong way to do it. And we've seen this time and time again. Faraday Future, classic example. They didn't even come. They didn't even show up. They made all these promises, got the tax incentives, and then didn't even show up. This one. You know, you gave everything to Tesla that they wanted. Great. I'm so glad they're here. But at the end of the day, they're not upholding their end of the bargain, and that is unacceptable. Where is the accountability for taxpayers in this? Where is the accountability for the business in this? We have a responsibility, and frankly, Sandoval and his administration should have been holding them accountable for a very long time. And it shows in this study that they did. They knew this was happening. They knew they were not meeting the requirements for the agreement that they created. And now they're just letting them get by without any penalties. I think that's wrong.
What did you think, Alan, just as I know that you've also kind of thought along those same lines, maybe with a caveat. So what do you think?
Oh, I'm not going to disagree because, I mean, I've been consistent about this as well. I don't think it's necessarily a Democrat or Republican issue. Dan Schwartz, who was our treasurer, was certainly opposed to the Faraday deal, as he should have been. And I think he was pretty skeptical about the Tesla deal, which he should have been. This was a problem under the Republican administration of Sandoval, and it's a problem under the Democrat administration of Sisolak. Listen, you and I have talked about this before. If you want to give tax breaks to some companies, they give them to them all. Because if you're going to give it to a big place like Tesla, I want to open a shoe store downtown Las Vegas. I want some kind of a tax break also. Why shouldn't I have one if Tesla gets one as well? And you're right, they have not lived up to the agreements that they came upon initially, and so. Listen, I would rethink our relationship with Tesla. Personally, I would. And I would be very skeptical in the future about giving tax breaks to people who may have a lot of pie-in-the-sky promises. They gave us a lot, Faraday gave us a lot, and they didn't fulfill it. And I don't think that we should be going ahead with many more. This is where I'm coming from. We did once upon a time talk about the idea of tax breaks for the movie industry, to make movies here. And under Lorraine Hunt, we know, when she was lieutenant governor, they brought a lot of movie making here. And it did happen. And they gave some tax breaks, but not what they got in New Mexico and some of the other states where they really do produce a lot of these movies. But, again, either we give them to everyone or we don't give them to anyone at all.
I think the other part of this too is you cannot this is not a sustainable way to do business. Right. You can't keep giving businesses tax breaks when we don't bring in enough tax revenue to fund things properly. And so at the end of the day, if you keep giving these tax incentives to come here, they don't meet the requirements, and we're still struggling financially as a state, this is a lose-lose situation for all of us, and I think we really have to be smarter about this in the future.
Their argument, by the way, is that they're bringing people here who are making money and are paying taxes, and so we're getting taxes that way.
But they're still not bringing enough, according to the agreement.
They're not bringing enough, and I agree with one thing you said, very important, and that is that this is not how we should be doing business. It's not a sustainable way of doing business, on a long-term basis. You cannot exist on that kind of a thing. And if you're going to give it to some, give it to everyone.
Well, this little hearing happened this week on Capitol Hill. The Mueller hearing happened. Don't know if anybody heard about that or not.
Small thing.
So now that we've gone through that, just the reaction and the aftermath, I think, did this go the way you wanted as a or not as a conservative, if you're liberal, or as a Democrat, did this go the way that you would want it to see?
Look, I didn't have very high expectations of it, if I was being completely honest. After the report came out and after additional information came out, there was really not much I thought he was going to add to what the report said. I think he did confirm that, there was more to the report, and that if the president was able to be indicted as a president, they may have gone that route. But we'll never know, because that's not a thing that can actually happen. So at the end of the day, I think it's good that he went before Congress. I think there were some important questions that were answered. And I think that the American public deserves to have this information. I've said that many times on this show. And I do think now, we have this information. Let's move forward with the election in 2020, knowing what we know from this important report. And let's use it against Donald Trump and make sure that he's not reelected. I think it's as simple as that.
Alan, what did you think from, and I apologize for almost calling you conservative on that, but on the conservative side and for Republicans, what did they get out of this hearing?
Well, the reason they couldn't indict the president is because there's nothing to indict, and it wasn't just the federal rule that prevented indicting a president. He said himself, Mueller, when he was before the committee, there were other reasons. The Democrats tried to pull out of him. It was only because of this this federal rule. No, he said there were other reasons. There were several other reasons that the president could not be indicted. And then they did follow up and say, what? And he said, I can't talk about it. I mean, he said that about 100 times. I can't discuss it. Listen, you had a doddering old guy who is not together, and obviously it was an embarrassing situation. His stuttering, stammering, and not understanding what went on with his report with his name on it showed the entire world, one, that he didn't write the report in the first place. He didn't participate in any of the interviews. That came out. He didn't participate in any of the interviews with any of the people, number one. Number two, I don't really believe, and most people don't believe, that he wrote the report. And when they referred to certain things, he'd go, well, and they'd look at the page, and he'd look at it, and there were several times that he had to say, okay, well, whatever the report says. He just didn't seem like he had it together at all. I almost felt sorry for him. I think Democrats were the losers in this because they expected to have him be their front man going out, let's go get Trump, and that didn't happen. Republicans didn't really gain anything either, except for the fact that Mueller just kind of made a little bit of a fool of himself. There was nothing in there that suggested that Donald Trump committed any kind of crime. They can use this till the cows come home if they want to, and I hope they do. And I'm glad that they had this. I'm glad they brought him before them. That's wonderful, and I hope they keep using it throughout the entire campaign, because all that will do is reinforce that Donald Trump is going to win a second term. You know, every time that there's a conflict that goes on, and the Democrats think that we're going to get him, you had that squad of snakes that opened their mouth up about Trump and stuff like that. What happened after that? Bam, his numbers went up. You had this come out with Mueller now. What happened right afterwards? Bam, his numbers went up. And the Democrats and liberal commentators on all the stations, MSNBC, CNN, and everything, George Stephanopoulos on ABC, and all they're saying, it's over, man, let it go, just let it go. Let's get into things that people really want to talk about and they care about. So, and you know, that's true. I mean, if Democrats are not going to win the presidency, but they should be talking about issues people want to talk about, not this ridiculous stuff.
Of course, reply, but also if nobody really either side got much out of it, isn't that really a good thing in the end?
I don't think that nobody got anything out of it. I mean, the president doesn't react the way he reacted if there was nothing that came out of this. I think that there were some important things that came out of it. And for me, one of the most important things that came out of it was this notion of somehow he's been completely exonerated. Nothing happened. It was a big, as you call it, nothing burger. That's not true at all.
That was Hillary's word.
That's not true at all, actually. What came out of it was several members of his campaign team, several members of his cabinet, several members of his staff actually went to jail for some of this stuff. And that is important because those people are all connected to him. This notion of somehow Russia was not involved, not true at all. The president himself said, oh, well, this is just a Russian hoax. None of this happened. Mueller himself yesterday said, this is not a hoax. This really happened. This is a real thing. So Donald Trump can go out there and spew his ridiculous talking points about all the things that did happen. But at the end of the day, this showed that those things are real. The report is real. This is not a witch hunt, as Donald Trump likes to say it is, because there were very real things that were investigated, and there were people who are connected to Donald Trump who went to jail. So at the end of the day, those things are important. And again, those things are important for the public to know. And I think, like I said, this is a way to show that there historically has been a pattern of abuse of power by Donald Trump, and that he does not have a stable government and a stable administration, and he is not the person that should be leading this country. And at the end of the day, it shows a pattern of behavior by the president, and that, I think, is the most important thing that comes out of this.
We got to wrap it up, but I mean, where there's smoke, there's fire is the saying.
The people who were indicted and went to
asserts.
jail had nothing to do with Donald Trump whatsoever. Nothing.
Except
Zero.
for his campaign manager.
Nothing to do with it at all. It had to do with their own lying before Congress and a lot of other, Michael Cohen, and a lot of other things. They cannot. There's no such. This is a lie by the left. You cannot. A prosecutor cannot exonerate someone. They investigate to.
Donald Trump exonerated himself.
Well, let me finish now. I'll let you finish. A prosecutor does not exonerate. They look to indict. They research to indict. No prosecutor ever, anywhere in the history of the country, has exonerated anyone. They don't exonerate. So it's not their position to exonerate. And that's exactly what they were doing here as a prosecutorial team. They were looking to be able to find areas of indictment. They couldn't find it. So you don't exonerate. There was nothing to indict. They couldn't have done it even if he wasn't president. So said Mueller, based on things he wouldn't talk about. So, I mean, you have all this stuff going on right now. The president may be bombastic in his tweeting. You don't like it. A lot of times I look at it and I scratch my head as well. But bottom line is that he's tried to do the best for this country. People like Maxine Waters wanted to impeach him the day he was elected, and they will not impeach him on this stuff. And if they continue with this impeachment talk and they want to wave the Mueller report around, let them do it. Every time they do it, his numbers go up and up. Donald Trump, another term. He'll win in November of 2020. He'll win a second term in November 2020. I know Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas, said that he's not going to be around. He'll be in jail. He won't be a free man. He's going to win re-election in 2020. Mark my words.
Let's leave it there for this week. Thank you both for coming in.
Thank you.